So I'll start. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ashwin Srivastav. Uh, I represent the Sapio umbrella, and we are all here right now to talk about the white paper we have just released on the economic impact of COVID-19 in India. So all of us have been aware about how the situations are changing and how it is leading to a significant uh, recession which is going to come. We are all aware of that. Even today, the governor of RBI talked about the same in the morning. Uh, but it's very important to quantify specifics of how the impact is going to be, on which sectors, in what manner, and probably to some extent be able to say the numbers which are needed to kind of take India away from the losses, the amount of economic losses which India will be facing, the deficit. So, keeping all of that in mind, it was imperative upon us to create this white paper. I'll tell you who us means here. So, Sapio Umbrella is a body, a part of Sapio Analytics. We are a government advisory firm, and this group, which has worked on the economic impact paper, includes a team of more than 150 experts. We have got experts from different divisions, different areas. We have got government officers. We have got former civil servants as well. We have got business leaders, venture capitalists to kind of represent the side of business. We have got uh, a number of economic experts as well. Apart from that, medical researchers, healthcare professionals, epidemiologists, and data scientists also. So this is a group of experts across all domains, and that's why we have been able to create an entire economic model that can talk about how the uh, the current situation is going to create impact across different sectors and across different levels uh, governance in India. This particular white paper, which we have released uh, just now, actually talks about the impact on India as a whole, the GDP impact which it will be leading to, the impact on various sectors. It has been divided into certain specific sectors, so it also talks about that, and overall talks about what is going to happen, and to some extent suggest certain silver linings in the process of what is going to happen as well. The team which worked upon this entire white paper was led by Mr. Sanjeeva Shivesh. He is also on call on this conference right now. After I kind of briefly introduce all of you to what we have done, he will be the one taking questions from all of us here. He is an integral part of Sapio Umbrella, and he is a former civil servant and a serial entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and an angel investor also. So, coming to what really the entire white paper is about and how we approached it. So, we approached it by first understanding how the data, by taking a certain number of base data points, which were taken. The baseline data was taken from data published by various government bodies also around this, and then we tried to understand how the impact of the situation will be on various sectors. The way we decided to work on the impact was by understanding three different scenarios. So I'll quickly take you through the three scenarios as well. The first scenario, what we assumed was the situation where there will be a, a removal of the complete lockdown from 20th of April, and low to medium scale activities will begin. And the impact of the entire situation of the crisis will remain till about September or so. So that was the first situation which we took. The second situation which we took, the second scenario, was where from 4th of May onward, there will be a calibrated kind of structured lockdown withdrawal, and the impact of the situation will remain till the end of December 2021, 2020. And the third scenario is where, again, from 4th of May, structured lockdown withdrawal starts happening, in a calibrated manner, while the impact remains till March 2021. These three scenarios were built upon. Now, obviously, we work with various government bodies. We are currently engaged with a number of state governments, government of Maharashtra, government of Telangana, and a few other state governments as well. So, in the process, we are working a lot on understanding how decisions are getting are needs to be designed with respect to lockdown across all these states across India. In the process, we have an idea as to which situation we feel to be optimistic, which situation we feel to be pessimistic. But this paper will talk about data with respect to all of these situations. This paper, we'll be sharing the paper with all of you. It then talks about basically understands how different sectors are impacted and how the overall GDP is impacted, the nominal GDP and the real GDP across these three scenarios. I can take you through the salient features, because if you go through the salient features in the paper in detail, you'll be able to see a number of conclusions which are coming out of this entire thing. But what I will rather want to do, I'll take you through a few salient features, but what I would rather want to do is that ask all of you, to ask questions so that we can talk about specific pointers here rather than getting into salient features. Because, if things are taken out of context without completely understanding the picture, it may be incomplete in terms of understanding the situation. So in terms of some of the salient features, we can say very clearly that in all the scenarios, there is a recession which is happening. Now, that is an undeniable truth, which is something which we need to be ready to face. In scenario 2, we are seeing the nominal GDP to reduce by around 5.4%. In scenario 3, it's going to be reduced by around 7.3%. And these are all big numbers because we're talking about comparison with the last year's GDP. And so typically in scenario 2, we are seeing that India would be pushed back by around 27 months, while around 36 months happens in scenario 3. And as you can understand very clearly that we are expecting scenario 2 and 3 to be the more practical scenarios which will be out there. So we can see very clearly a pushback of economy by around 3 years in India happening due to the current situation. Obviously, we have talked about the amount of an expectation of the job loss which this will lead to, a rough expectation around that as well, which you can see in the paper. We'll take those questions separately also in this conversation. And as a conclusion, we have also seen that the economic package which is needed is around 14.5 to 15 lakhs. We have created it 50 lakh crores. So 14.88 lakh crores is the overall economic package which we believe would be needed to take India out of the situation. And it has to be deployed in a very intelligent manner. It has to be deployed keeping in mind the various sectors which are getting impacted. For example, we see as expected also intuitively the sector of the industry of hotels and travel getting significantly impacted, while we see certain silver lining in form of the industry of agriculture, fisheries, forestry, and so that's also there. So keeping the plan of various sectors in mind, what is going to grow, what is going to be significantly impacted, and also planning how different regions across India will be impacted. The planning of the distribution of this 14.88 lakh crores package needs to be done. So what we see very clearly out there, that there is a need which is coming out of the recession which we are getting forced into without a doubt, and which is effectively pushing India back by around, as I mentioned, 27 to 36 months. And it's needed to work upon this by planning this package, which needs to be distributed across regions, across sectors in a well-planned manner. What we are also talking about is that it should lead to probably a new accounting method to look at how things have changed because of what we are seeing, that there is a change which is happening because of the current lockdown and the potential of the virus spread as well, which is leading to a large amount of impact. But we also need to look at the at the positives of what we can do out of this. So we have talked about some of the positives also in the paper. I have not right now not talked about the various methodologies which we have used to arrive at this. For example, just to tell you very briefly about some of the methodologies we have. For every sector, we have taken the availability of labor, the availability of demand, how the entire supply chain is being distributed across that sector. All those factors have been taken into account to come to this to come to the conclusion of this paper. As I mentioned earlier, we are a team of data scientists which have worked a lot on the data analytics part, and we're a team of domain experts who basically are experts in economic modeling, and as I mentioned, experts across different domains, including medical sciences and molecular biology. So this is how we have been able to come to this conclusion. What I will request now is that I will request questions from your side, and I'll also ask Mr. Sanjeeva Shivesh, who is the team leader behind creating this paper, to talk about the features in more detail, the methodology in more detail, and also answer your questions around this entire thing. What you can do, you may ask your questions directly on the chat. It can be asked to everyone, or it can be asked individually to anyone also. That would be the best way to do it, to avoid too much of echo of the sound. Hardik, I will request you to also have a look on the other channels like Facebook Live, where we are live right now, and other places. Sanjeeva sir, to start off, Shiva sir, I would ask you to just quickly elaborate probably on the methodology first, because that is something everyone would be interested in the most.
Right. So, gentlemen, thanks a ton for turning up. So this is a fairly simple economic model, and it is based on the same method as what Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation does. We have been building this data repository for quarter by quarter economic numbers since the year 2008. And this is rigorously built, followed up, this. Gentlemen, so the basic framework of this remains the same as MOSPI's method, National Statistical Office's method. The nominal and real numbers are based there. We have used the similar trends of deflators for every sector, and we have gone sector by sector approach. So Ashwin, if it is fine with you, I can share a very quick PPT where people can see the headline numbers, and then it would be easier for them to ask questions. If that's fine.
Yes, sir, please.
Right. So give me a moment, please. Right. So, gentlemen, can you? I have a small infographic on the screen, and if you can see through this, then I can run through the number and look at this model. This is for the last 5 years. The numbers here are for financial year ending 2017, financial year ending 2018, 2019, 2020, and we are somewhere here as per the government's number. We should be hitting 203 lakh crore in the nominal GDP, which was expected by March. But unfortunately, we don't get the same numbers. We are down by about 3%. Like for like, the Q4 growth of GDP for India is is minus 0.3%, minus 0.3%. And I think that syncs well with most of the estimates which is coming. But going forward, perhaps the numbers that we are getting are not the same. So as Ashwin explained, we have done 3 scenarios, and this is the first scenario. The first scenario predicates that the economy starts reopening at a very low scale from 20th, as per Ministry of Home Affairs instructions. And but the economic reality is lockdown while it lifts. Social distancing is here to stay. And the real challenge for any economic model today going forward is how long it is going to stay. And there are no clear answers. So there are various, what you call, conjectures around it. But today, more or less, most experts have settled to this reality that until vaccine is there, coronavirus is going to impact the economic behavior. So there is going to be economic friction. People are going to remain and work at distance. And there are multiple countries which are at, so about 204 countries are at risk of coronavirus. Now, that has a serious implication, because if USA is not growing, if Europe is not growing, if Japan is not growing, and if China is, for the first time, Chinese numbers were published yesterday, and they declined by 6.8%. Everyone was thinking 6, but the real number is 6.8. And in that scenario, people still expect China to clock some sort of positive number. We are not very sure, because China's growth was largely predicated on exports, and exports have substantially declined. So if the domestic economy grows, China grows. But all the domestic economies in the world, they have become more insular in their approach. They want to be more insular in their approach. The trust deficits are there. People are thinking whether EU is going to sustain or not, whether EU implodes, because when restrictions are placed on Italy, people when EU put restrictions on Italy, everyone was thinking that why is this? Why this restriction on Italy per se? And that sort of trust deficit extends across all the countries. Now, in that scenario, even WTO expects that there is going to be sharp fall in trade. And in this backdrop, all the modeling has happened. So we looked at all the aspects of economy and have done quarter by quarter projection. And the big, in the first scenario, this was, if you look, as per budget documents 2020, which was presented on 1st of April, India was hoping to reach 227 lakh crore for the nominal GDP. But the bad news is we are going to shrink. We are perhaps going to reach 195 lakh crore. And the simple rationale behind this is do plain maths. If you do back of envelope calculation, the loss to economy, if it is under lockdown for a month, it is, different people have come to different numbers, but day before yesterday, Arvind Subramaniam gave a number. He said that 3 lakh crores per month, and I suspect that he was speaking on real terms. But in nominal terms, that translates to about 4 lakh crore, because every month the economic engine is supposed to generate about 80 lakh crores. And if that 80 lakh crore is not generated, an economy performs at a suboptimal level, and even if you assume that it is performing at 75% level, the loss is going to be about 4.5 lakh crore for that period. Now, so if we clock 203 lakh crore and just take 1 month gone, this is the loss figure. And that is not the reality. Going forward in the month of May, or come May or June or July, and this predicates that social distancing norms are going to continue till 30th September, right? And that is super optimistic. 30th September is now and there, right? Until the time, if we are able to find a golden bullet or a vaccine, which can be made available all across the world, perhaps this model can stay. But the chances of this scenario to stay is extremely low. And this is the number that we have put up for you. Now, these are nominal numbers. If you discount it with the economic deflator, then we get the real numbers, and here are the real numbers. So we expect to close the GDP for this year in real terms at 146 lakh crore. And the following year, we expect that there's going to be a shrinkage of about 5 lakh crore. Now, 5 lakh crore and 146 lakh crore is about 3% shrinkage. So that's the scenario which is there for that. These are the numbers which is there for the first scenario. And in these scenarios, if you look at all the factors, all the industrial component, which adds to the gross value addition for the economy. So the black bars are all for the previous year, and the blue bars are all that we expect for financial year ending 2021, the year that we are in. So there are two sectors which will perform, which is expected to perform better, and that is agriculture. Primarily, it is so rural India is hardly affected with coronavirus as of now, and everyone expects that agriculture will run at its own pace, and most of the essential commodities comes from that sector. So there is it will grow at the usual pace, and the government, which is public administration and defense, so that sector is going to grow. Especially in terms of the healthcare budgets and everything. Even the state governments are going to increase their outlays on healthcare. So these are the only two sectors which are expected to grow. Remaining all sectors, we expect contraction. So whether it is manufacturing is going to go down. Whether it's mining and quarrying, it's going to go down. Electricity, gas, so petrols. Already we know that the petrol consumptions are at at 17-year low levels right now. Construction is severely affected, and it is the sector where social distancing is going to add a lot of friction, right? Then the freight transportation has started. Communication in this communication under this headline is a growing sector. Trade is barely standing up at the at previous year's levels. Especially there is a fall in retail trade at all the malls, and all that we are seeing. Things like fashion, clothing, etc. are going to go down. Hotels, travel, tourism are going to take a big hit. Financial services, real estate, so commercial real estate is going to go down, and financials are expected to be nearly at the same level. There are high risks of default which can affect banking sector. So that's the picture. And this picture, the three slides which I presented before you for scenario one, it runs for all the scenarios. So scenario two, if I have to explain, scenario two deals with the assumption is that the economy reopens on 4th of May, and then we remain under the realm of coronavirus until December. And the scenario 3 says that for the whole of the year, even though we reopen on the 3rd May, for the entire of the year, we continue to work under the norms of social distancing and, with masks and all the sort of stuff, which means that the new age of work and the new order of work is there. It's a fundamental reset in all the things. So, and that is going to cause a learning curve, which will impede the growth in all the three scenarios. Now, to present a snapshot picture of all the three scenarios. This is one graph where we can look at the snapshot picture of all the three scenarios. So if you look at all the black bars, this is what we had for the last 4 quarters. This was a projection. Now, this quarter, as I said, we are going to see a shrinkage, primarily because in Q4, the nominal growth was expected to be performing at 55 lakh crore. We expect we are going to touch about 49 lakh crore. So about 5 lakh crore of net loss. And that nominal loss, or 4 to 5 lakh crore of nominal loss, is going to drag the economy further. This is a quarter where the fall is very sharp, and the quarter in which we are right now. And that is primarily because of the effects of lockdown. So April is a complete washout, right? Now, the difference between the green bar and the blue bar and the yellow bar are the three scenarios. So the green bars are the scenarios which says that the economy reopens on 20th April, and social distancing vanishes from 1st of October. The blue bars and the yellow bars are for economy opening on the 4th of May, and the blue bar says that we are going to live with this until 31st December, and then the world sort of becomes better. And the yellow bars are more pessimistic a scenario, which says that we are going to live with this for the whole of the year. Now, my considered view is that perhaps this is going to continue much beyond March 2021, because the expected date of most research and analysts is about 18 months for the vaccine to come. But by that time, the world also will learn fast to adjust with the newer ways of working, and then perhaps that's the time when the reset is fundamentally done, right? So this is the area that you see under the pink line here is the net economic loss. So this is the net economic loss, and all our models have done computation of these losses, and which is there in the white paper, right? Finally, we have made an attempt at the size of the economic package for each of the scenarios, but our team's considered view was that we are somewhere, this financial year is somewhere between scenario 2 and 3. So in determining the size of the economic package, we baseline scenario 3 and compared it with the last financial year. And we are not looking at the growth this year at all. So only to be at the same levels, same economic levels as the last financial year. The size of the economic package required is about close to 15 lakh crore, which it is 14.88 lakh crore. And this has to be spread from quarter to quarter. Now, any economic package which comes in this quarter, it is largely going to be inefficient, and government has done the best thing, because they have sort of tried to only address only address the issues which concerns the most, which is to do with the incomes of poor people. So if you look at the economic package which was announced on 28th March, it had PM Kisan, and it had pensions. It had 5,500 rupees per month for all the ladies, and there was gas cylinder, Ujjwala, and and then there was the EPF contribution from government, and all totaling to about 1.7 lakh crore. Now, and that was envisaged for the next 3 months, which is for the months of April, May, and June. And the real challenge which any economic, with any decision maker in economy today would be facing is to comprehend where we are heading. And in that sense, there is no other route but to focus on scenario, to build up scenarios, and then use these scenarios to forecast the future. And whatever is the most plausible, perhaps plan the economy for that. Now, 14.8 lakh crore is the big number that we should be looking at. It has to be timed, and it has to be timed well across all the sectors. So the sectoral gaps are all given and provided here. if there is any question, then I'm open for question. I can switch off this PowerPoint.
Yeah, so Shivesa, there are a few questions I think which have been asked on the group right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question was around, does the analysis considers different sub scenarios like baseline, upside, and downside for each of the scenarios?
Yeah. So, and those variations would be so we have, and those variations are fairly sort of in the tune of, if I look at scenario 1, for example, where the size of the economic package which says is going to be about 7 lakh crore. Now, if you within the scenario, if I do a micro scenario building, the difference is to the tune of about 50,000 crore. Now, for the size of package that we are saying, it is minuscule, right? So we went for each of these sectors and then looked at sectoral probabilities of where we are going to hit, and considering considering the effects of lockdown. Now, the real challenge that we faced in terms of doing this forecast was to have a finger on the deflator. And at the moment, although the CPI numbers have come about 3 days back, I think, and we've tried to be conservative there, but if there is large scale deflation, if we are going to see, then perhaps the real GDPs could look better, but the size of package is not going to change.
Pradeep has asked, how do you see, I think I can take that, advertising and marketing spend being affected. So Pradeep, the best way to look at this is how the current spend is happening across sectors, and then you can see the various sectors which have been impacted, and you can draw a conclusion out of that as to how the advertising sector would get impacted. Obviously, we can see the spend getting impacted significantly based on all these sectors which we have talked about. So I think you can kind of do a.
So one, Ashwin, I can just add up to that. So one of the things which has happened is the media consumption has increased, right? So and media consumption has increased substantially, and this was also noticed in China. So in China, the television consumption shot up by about close to 40% in the months of January and February, and same is true in India. So news consumption, the television consumption, Netflix consumption, all those things have increased. But the challenge for advertisers is that just because people are watching more news does not mean that advertising revenue is going to increase, because it's a subset of all the things which is happening in the industry.
Yeah.
So if industry is going to shrink per se, the advertising revenue will also get affected.
Yeah. Praveen has asked a few questions. I will quickly take the one of them, and then Savi, you can take the rest. He has asked, for example, did you cover how it could also be an opportunity for the country to completely reboot? So Praveen, in the white paper you see at the end, we have given some points around how this definitely is an opportunity. Opportunity being presented because of the international global recession which is happening, and opportunity being presented out of the fact that there is the new age tech which is going to come in and be able to play a major role in deciding the future of the country. So yes, this is definitely an opportunity in that sense. Shivesh sir, you would like to take the questions over here?
Yeah. So I think the real shift which is going to happen, and that is almost certain, is the manufacturing will shift out of China, right? It had already started last year, or when the fuel of trade wars was there, it already had started shifting to Vietnam and Bangladesh, and this trend is there for the last almost 24 months. India, unfortunately, at that time could not benefit from it. Now, this is going to come back. This opportunity is going to come back again. The question is whether this opportunity is going to come back this year. The chances are low. Reason being, overall, there is a shrinkage in global GDP, right? The big economies have to look at the developed economies, which make about 40% and of the global economy, and which was large proportion of China's export, they are going to shrink nearly in the range of 8 to 10%. So Goldman released a report that US is going to shrink by 6, and then JP Morgan said that is going to shrink by 8, and this quarter is going to shrink by 35%. So it will take for these large, it will take time for these large economies to settle down. The package in US has been very big in terms of size of the economy. They have their package is almost 33% of the size of the economy, and still people expect that it would be a larger package. But this is also a time of fundamental geopolitical shift, and I think which means that the shift out of China, how much it happens to which part of the world, it will be under discussion, but it's not necessarily going to happen. The effects of those shifts will show perhaps maybe 12 months from now, maybe 12 to 15 months from now. But yeah, I think India has to work very aggressively to not miss the bus this time, which means that one of the thorns in our policy making, which was there for the last 6 or 7 quarters, was to reform the labor laws, because unless labor laws are liberalized, multinational corporations will have challenges in coming to India. And we know that because of which Vietnam and Bangladesh benefited.
Yeah. Shiva sir, one important point, there was a discussion about the new accounting method, which I briefly mentioned. So right. What is, I think Praveen has asked, what are the new accounting methods, or what change on a policy level are we suggesting to the government here? I think Praveen has asked that question at the top.
Right. I think, look, so this is something tricky, right? So the real challenge today is that governments across the world, they have deferred publishing of results.
Yeah.
Right. Now, why is it that? Why is that so? Essentially, no one wants to put up a bad number. And when the moment you put up a bad number, which means that there's going to be some sort of a reaction by everyone else. So it's a tricky situation. Essentially, when we are saying of new accounting, I don't think it's new accounting as in real terms of new accounting, but to have a system in place where you allow more time for the economy to count the losses and then to report the losses. And when we are saying so, essentially it means that you're also giving chance to the economy to recover and maybe paint a better picture.
Okay. There are a few questions about agriculture actually. So
right.
The questions are about how do we see the growth of agriculture being presented? Have we considered the help towards achieving doubling the farmers' income post COVID-19? So what's your take on the agriculture sector?
Look, agriculture is the trickiest sector of Indian economy, and a lot in agriculture still depends on the kind of monsoon we have.
Yeah.
Right. But if you look at the strengths of Indian agriculture, perhaps we have a fair amount of food security. So FCI godowns are full, which means that there's not going to be food crisis. And that's a good news, because if there's not going to food crisis, which means that if we implement the ration card schemes well, then everyone in this country can easily get food for the whole of the year, right? So that's on the food security side. Now, I think with a lot of labor moving back to their villages or to their hometowns, which means that available supply of people who can work on field is going to be higher. The economy in the urban area is not presenting a great picture. The real problem of this poor picture is a scenario of job loss. And so when and because a lot of people work in the informal sector, they don't find it reasonable enough, or the incentives of being in Delhi and Bombay and Bangalore is going to be not there. It's more difficult to be living in these places. So they go back to their farms, whether it's in Uttar Pradesh or Bihar or Jharkhand or West Bengal, wherever it is, which means that critical labor is available. India has got fair bit of irrigation system, fair bit of seed supply, etc. So I think that's a sector India is going to max out this year. Doubling of farmers' income, I don't think it's going to happen, because if that was to happen, the bar that you saw in the agriculture side, it would have really shot up, right? So we expect about 8%, about 5 to 6% growth in the agri sector, which is great news. Last year we grew at about 5 to 6%. So that's it. Doubling is still a far cry in this economic environment.
Sure. So Dr. Pradhan's question around, is government going to reduce or rearrange the budget allocated to smart cities? There's one quick point on that, Dr. Pradhan. We are also coming up with a new white paper on, along with TIFAC, on the technology forecasting as to how the investments in tech should be there across this financial year as well. And what is also mentioned, if you see at the end of this white paper, we have talked about how the new age tech is going to play a critical role in allowing India to do that reboot. So I'll not answer your question directly right now, but probably with more papers coming out, we'll be able to see as to how the budget has to be allocated. But it's very important to focus on all those areas which are leading to the new age tech, because there's a very high chance that that may lead to help India in the current situation more than taking it away from the situation.
Right. So Ashwin, I think it's a great question that Dr. Pradhan is asking, and the real challenge this year is how do we balance between revenue expenditure and capital expenditure? And if I understand, most of the smart city expenses are on the capital side. And consider this: if the economy shrinks, which means that taxes also shrink. Now, if taxes also shrink, then revenue expenditure is something which is foregone. It has to happen, right? I think net this year is going to be challenging for any long-term investment unless we are able to steal money from some pocket. Now, when I say steal money, in the sense, unless we are able to provide money from somewhere, and then say that this is the best time, and it's going to be the best time to be investing on long-term asset building for the economy. But the real challenge is to generate that. I'm sorry, but the real challenge is to generate that 14 lakh crore. I think there are ways and means, and perhaps, and one of the other white papers that we are going to come is to address that issue, how to bridge this gap of 14 lakh crore, right? We have thoughts, but it's not very crystallized. There are huge risks of this because, as you are all aware, last 2 years were not the best for Indian economy, right? We're not doing great. We were really stretched, and in these times we got hit by coronavirus, right? It is not 2008. 2008, pre-2008, we were actually booming, and when the crisis of 2008 came, we were able to tide over that crisis. But 2020 is a real challenging situation for India.
Yeah.
So capex is going to be a real. My gut feel is there are going to be cuts on that side.
Yeah. Also, to add to that, Indian Railways also has come up with a plan on focusing on AI and data analytics significantly for this year, and we are also working on another white paper on that part, which will be presented to Indian Railways, which will be quite interesting, talking about the new age tech. But anyways, coming to other questions, reduction in GST rates and waiving of the interest and penalties of any historical pending taxable dues from corporates would be a great boost for the companies. Or would you like to take that question, Shivester? Praveen's question? Yeah.
I think it's a great question again, Praveen, and I think the answer is going to be extremely tricky. And why it's going to be tricky is something that we need to understand. Now, there are two ways in which the economy engine fires. And in the last 8 or 12 quarters, the engine which was sustaining the growth was government. So there are four components. So one is consumers like us. So if consumer spending is increasing or not increasing, then second was private investments. So and India was not doing great in terms of private investments. The third was government spending, and that was clearly boosting up the economy. And the final sector is final constituent was the net exports. So I think that is going to play primarily because oil prices are benign, and they are expected to stay benign for most of the year. Now, what government has done is the benefits of this is not going to consumer. Rather, government has increased excise duty, and they want to have that piece. And I think it is the right decision at this juncture, because government needs money. If government cuts GST rate, then they are left with lesser money. So the dilemma that all of us have is the money spent by government more efficient, or the money spent by private sector more efficient? And I think in the times of crisis, the scale mostly at the time of crisis, at the hour which where we are in right now, the scale will mostly tilt in the favor of government, because uh, 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 we would trust them to be much better at the allocation of resources, considering the challenges to all aspects of economy. It would be extremely difficult for a simple corporate to do a very balanced allocation of the resources which are very scarce. So I really don't think there's going to be any cut in GST. That's the money which government clearly needs. Because of shrinkage, the overall tax base, overall tax income is going to reduce considerably, and they really need money from all sides. The real challenge for government there is, even despite this increase, even despite the bonanza that they're getting from oil, they will still need a huge amount of money, because 14 lakh crore is a big gap which has to be provided for. The question about 14 lakh crore is, how much does government provide and how much do rest of us provide? And that's the math that is waiting to happen.
Yeah. We have around 8 minutes, 7 minutes now. What
Right.
we'll do is that last 3 to 4 minutes, I will have some announcements for everyone. 1 to 2 minutes, Hardik will close it. So maybe we can take three minutes more for questions. Sir, you would like to see any of the questions you would like to answer from? There are quite a few questions actually here.
Right, so there's let me scroll up and, okay. So advertising, we have taken agri, we have taken accounting method, growth in agriculture. Sports sector is one question, smart cities, and subsidies, reduction of GST. So two questions are there. Then there's a question on major concern regarding screening of asymptomatic patients, right? And pool testing. Okay, so let's take sports sector. Any forecast on sports sector? Look, extremely difficult to forecast. Now, if you think in terms of how much does sports contribute to GDP of India, perhaps it is going to be much less as compared to global, because we don't have EPL, we don't have NBAs and those sort of stuff. We don't have FIFA World Cup, we don't have UEFA, etc. So, but we have a very valuable franchise in terms of IPL and Professional Kabaddi League. And I think this year IPL, the chances of holding IPL is low. Or even if IPL is held, the revenues that is anticipated for IPL is going to shrink, right? And precisely because IPL is a subset, it gets revenue in terms of marketing spends and television, allocation of media budgets and all that. So I don't think it's going to be the year for the sports this year. If you look at are there any chances of deduction in subsidies provided government to needy? Deduction to check in. Look, I don't think there's going to be any reduction in subsidies. This is a year of subsidies. The poor people, consider this. There are 45 crore people who are employed in India. Now, if the GDP is going to shrink by, let's say, even 5%, 5% of 45 crore is about 2.5 crore people who would be out of jobs. Now, the real challenge for government is to provide assured income to these people to and I don't want to say these people in a very disdainful manner to everyone who's out of job, because this phenomena is going to happen across sectors, across cities, mostly in urban India. This is going to be the reality now, and that challenge needs to be addressed. I do a lot of work with startups and MSMEs, and the real challenge that these guys are facing today is a depletion of cash. So for the last nearly a month, they have not had any much of revenue accruals. And in the first week of April, they had to still incur payments on salaries because commitments were made. Everyone was signed off letters to MCA, and in that sense, those happened. But come first week of May, and the tension would be very visible, right? And this tension would be visible across startups. Chances are we'll see a lot of startups getting closed. This tension would be visible, very strongly visible across MSMEs. There are, if there are 40 lakh MSMEs, and the more you think of smaller, or maybe 65 lakh MSMEs. So each of these businesses, they are going to feel the heat, right? And the package needs to focus on every sector of economy. So it's not just about the 8 industries that I showed you in my chart. It's about where these industries are in terms of geography, in terms of the nature of industry, whether it's a large business, whether it's a small business, whether it's a mid-sized business, whether it's a startup, for each of them. Lastly, we need to really take into account that where has coronavirus done the most damage in India? Right. So the moment you ask this question, the first name comes is Mumbai, right? The second name which comes is Delhi, right? Now Mumbai and Delhi alone, they constitute about 25% of India's GDP, right? Or maybe 20-25% of India's GDP. Now, if these two cities continue to work under lockdown-like condition, right? So lockdown will get lifted on 3rd May, but if there are zones which are, within cities, if these are zones of isolation, then how business is going to behave. So coronavirus largely is a very city-centric, city affecting pandemic, and most of the economy today in India is in the cities, and that's where a lot of brunt is. Urban poors is something that we really need to look for and tackle, because if you don't tackle, it can result, and there are enough case studies in history, it can result into social unrest, it can result into thefts and robberies and those sort of stuff. Crime rates can increase. So in that sense, it is very important to have well-directed, smart subsidies for different segments of the population.
Sir, before we take any other question, a few quick points from my side first. Because all of us are here, we can have a few quick announcements as well. So one point which we have been talking about is with respect to how do we find the treatment, the vaccine, and there is a very important work which we as Sapio Umbrella, we have done. We'll be talking about it in the next 1 to 2 days. We will be making an announcement also about that. It's related to the treatment of COVID-19 using some new innovative technique. And a lot of what we are talking about is, again, driven by data. It uses certain specific techniques, and we are going to do trials on that now, which is driven to a great extent by data-backed analysis on how certain treatments should be taken. I'm talking right now about, I'll just quickly give you the punchline of what we're talking about. We're talking about about supercharged plasma treatment. And we might have heard and read about plasma treatment happening in different parts of the world. But the supercharged plasma treatment is somewhat unique in nature. And we will be coming out with an announcement about what we are going to do with it in the next few days. So, that's a quick announcement from our side. Yeah.
Ashwin, I think Lieutenant Colonel Narula asked a very good question, in fact, and I think if time permits, we can quickly take that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
that,
Please.
with your right. So, and I think this is something which is desperately required. The question is, what measures the government should take to to bring back the feel-good factor in this fledgling economy scenario, and this is critical, right? I think government has been taking one step. Our response has been very different from let's say Donald Trump, right? We have been taking steps one at a time. So the first package came on 28th March. We are expecting another package either tomorrow or Monday. So that's the time. And I think it's going to be critical because feel good factor comes provided the package says that they are going to take care of the government is going to take care of the needs of MSMEs and startups. The moment you bring this, because all of us agree that in the last 5 years, what Prime Minister Modi has done is bring in a lot of hope through the vehicle of startup. And if that perishes, it's going to be a real killer. So we must bring in that sort of hope. We also need to say that everyone who has missed out PM Kisan benefits just because registrations were not possible. We simplify, we make people sign those up and then transfer those benefits because 2,000 is really a very small amount. So once the money reaches the hand of consumer, I think consumer mentally starts feeling very safe, and then they get into the spending cycle. Once the economy maybe reopens or the social distancing gradually goes away. So rural economy is something which is going to remain buoyant. And in that sense, PM Kisan is going to help.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few more questions, but what we can do is that, the whole idea is that please go through the white paper and ask more questions also around it. Create your own reports, your own article. So we will have more questions also there. We will take it all on the side, outside of this also. Hardik, would you like to close this for us? I think we are already in. We have reached 60 minutes for the meeting.
Yeah, sure.
And you wanted to add quickly about two announcements on your side also.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjeeva sir, for the detailed and comprehensive report and the white paper that you have made. I would quickly like to make two announcements. Moving on to the DSS front, the decision support system that we have been building around with the help of our volunteer members at SAPIO Umbrella. We are also looking forward to institutional tie-ups, and one of the institutions that we have recently collaborated with is Narsi Monjee Institute of Management Studies. Beyond national cooperation, we are also looking for international collaborations with the institute's unique network and connections. And another important announcement that I'd like to make is about the hackathon that we are conducting tomorrow and day after tomorrow. It would be basically a creation of a dashboard which would be possibly used at government authorities across various levels. So the same link has been shared on our website as well as on all the social media channels. If anyone wishes to apply for this, they can surely go through the website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hardik. Thanks a lot, everyone. It was great. And as I have put the link of the white paper here, please go through it and do ask us questions. Shivesh sir will also be able to answer those offline for you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all for the patient listening.
Thank you, everyone.